Alright guys, so I'm going to tell you another story. So I think we're going to start doing with this channel. We'll do a story every once in a while on it. I'll label it story time so you know what the video is about. In the last story time video I told about being in jail. And this one I'm going to tell you about the time I bought a Porsche 911 pretty much in the middle of the night off Craigslist. So what the situation was, this was 2008. It was summer 2008. And my uncle is here from Tahiti, and he was back visiting. And I was sitting here 10 o'clock at night going through Craigslist. And I'm in Missouri, so I'm searching with a site called Search Tempest. I don't know if they're even still around anymore. It's been a while since I used it. And I came across a 1983 Porsche 911 SC with a factory steel wide body. And beautiful car. Well, from what I could tell, the pictures were shady. I'll try to find the original pictures. I think I still have them. When before I bought the car, the guy had on the ad. I think I saved all the pictures. There was 3 or 4 pictures. And looked like they were taken with a flip phone. They were blurry. They were smudged. And I was blowing it up on my laptop. And, you know, inspecting everything as close as I could for what I could. And the car looked good. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night. I called the guy. He was in Hickory, Tennessee. And that is on the very eastern border of Tennessee. And so it's on the other side of Chattanooga. I think it was about a 12 or 13 hour drive from where I'm at. And forgot to turn that phone off, I always do. And I told my uncle we were looking to go on a trip just to get out of here and do something. 10 o'clock at night, we packed our bags and left. Right in the middle of the night. And I used to be a pro at talking people into holding the car for me. And I wanted to send the guy a deposit through PayPal, like $100 or a couple $100, just so we were locked in. Nothing worse than doing a trip. You get all the way to where you're going, and the car gets sold out from underneath of you. So he says, "Oh, you know, there's a bunch of people calling, but I'll wait for you to get here and pick it up." And what we had done, somehow we had a rental car, and it's been 10 years ago. It's been a long time ago. Remember if we already had a rental car from doing something a day or two before that, or what the situation was. We might have waited till 7 in the morning to leave. It really, I can't remember, but I think we left that night. Anyway, we drove all the way through, didn't stop. And when we got to this guy's house, his neighbor was there trying to buy the car. And I think he wanted $2,500 or $3,500. I really can't remember. I think it was $2,500 for this 911. And what the situation with it was, he said, "Oh, you know, it runs fine. Every once in a while when you turn it off, it won't restart. You have to let it sit for a few minutes and it'll finally restart." And that had the old mechanical injection like a diesel, like a Cummins diesel had. And had a very bizarre cold start system. And anyway, I was pretty up on that stuff back then. There was a mixture screw on that pump. It took an Allen key. I think I had 1 or 2 other 911s at that same time. It's the second or third one I've had that I've actually had in my house at that very time. So make a long story short, without drawing out too long, we got the car, we're coming back. The rental car was a Dodge Caliber, which had the CVT transmission. And I took a plate, almost for my Sequoia or what it was, or another 911 at the time, I believe. We took a plate with us to put on the other car to drive it back. I think at that very time I didn't have a trailer of my own. I don't remember what the situation with the trailer was, but it wasn't an option at that point in time. And So we drove out there in the rental, drove both of them back. So we're coming back to the mountains. And I was driving the rental. I was the only one covered on the rental insurance. My uncle, which at that point in time he was probably 60 years old at that time. And, coming back through the mountains, it was just, no, what is that, the Appalachians? Out that way, I believe. Some huge hills. Well, the rental car wouldn't keep up. It wouldn't keep up with speed limit. It wouldn't keep up. The Dodge Caliber CVT was so weak. When I would get to the bottom of a hill, of a mountain, wasn't even that steep of a mountain, like the foothills, right? I would hold it to the floor on the flat before I get to the hill, get up to about 90, and with it flat to the map, by the time I got to the top of the hill, I was down to 40 miles an hour on the interstate. And at that point in time, my uncle flew past me the very first hill, and I didn't see him for like 30 minutes. He was gone. And he finally calls me and says, "What in the hell are you doing? Where are you at?" And I said, "Man, this rental just won't do it. It just won't do it." So to make a long story short, we drove all the way back to Paducah, Kentucky, which is about 2 hours from here. We did not turn the car off. We were afraid it wouldn't restart. And we put fuel in it. It didn't take much fuel. It was getting like 32 miles a gallon. Put fuel in it with it running. Drove all the way back. Got to Paducah. Wanted to stop and get some food. Turned it off. It wouldn't start. And this was a red 911 wide body. It looked just like a 930 turbo. Had the turbo wing. It was mint. It had 19-inch wheels on it. The dish on the wheels was so large I could put a dollar bill on it, and it was still wider than a dollar bill was. And we pull in, I believe it was Cracker Barrel in Paducah, Kentucky. And this thing wouldn't start when it came back out, and it was drawing a crowd. And people were stopping, looking, taking pictures. And if you ever been through Paducah, Kentucky, I'm not saying it's a tiny town, but there's not a lot of red Porsche 911s rolling through there at all, by any stretch of the imagination. I think they have a BMW dealer in that town. I haven't been down there since then, to be honest with you, since 2008. Who knows what's happened now? It might be as big as New York now. But back then it was not. So this thing would not start. This was before the days of all-do wing ding jump packs. It was before the days of all that stuff. And I think we had jumper cables with us, and that was it. And it was about dark, and this thing just would not start, would not fire, would not hit. And I brought my Craftsman 3-drawer toolbox with me, which I still use to this day, the tools out of it. It was like a little Rubbermaid chest. You guys probably seen them. I think Cobalt makes the same thing. And I pulled the Allen wrench out of the toolbox and turned the mixture about a half a turn richer on that mechanical pump for the fuel, and it fired right up. And we drove all the way back to Missouri, parked it the next morning, it fired right up. I think only one other time, I owned that car about 6 months, I had one time it wouldn't start correctly. And it was perfect. And car made quite a bit of power. I don't remember the specs on the engine anymore. It had headers on it. It was a pretty peppy car. And it actually made so much power, it actually blew the back shocks out one day when I was standing on it. And anyhow, it was a really good car. And keep in mind, I bought it, I believe it was $2,500. And I was ready to get rid of it. I didn't really spend any money on it. You know, it was already pretty clean. I kept it clean. I think I painted some stuff up on the engine. Just made it look a little bit nicer than what it actually was when I got it. And I put it on eBay. And it had a couple little scratches on it. I mean, it was very, very minor. And it had a bumper, as you can see in the pictures, that was made in Germany. And it had receipts for the bumper. It was $2,500 for it. And it was a bumper that you could either the fog lights out or not. And they weren't cut out. And I never got a chance around putting those in there. Anyway, make a long story short, it was a 930 bumper that was made to fit a non-wide body front end. And so a 930 bumper that was retrofitted to fit the 911 front end. And because that car had the wide rear fenders, but not the front fenders, if I remember right. And so I ended up selling on eBay. I think I sold it for around $15,000. And I sold it to a guy, I believe it's Puerto Rico. And he had it shipped. And so I took, the day the shipping company is going to pick it up, the car was prepaid for, all the payment was all done. And the truck driver, which is pulling a wedge, or however many cars you haul on a regular car, was it 13 cars I think is the max, I don't even know, but he insisted he pull it on the trailer, and the bumper set not very low, but I was very particular never to curb that bumper, never to run up on a parking stop, not to hit any armadillos or possums with it. It was a real act to keep that bumper pristine. And as he was pulling up on the ramps, he pulled it up on the ramps about 15 miles an hour. Didn't even look. And he ripped the whole front bumper off of it after it's paid for. And I pulled my phone out and started taking pictures of that. And I might still have those pictures yet. And he just acted like it was no big deal. And I said, well, the bumper itself, not painted, was $2,500 with paint and everything. You're probably looking at $3,000 easy for that bumper. And I don't know what you want to do. So I immediately called that guy's boss at the company, told him. Long story short, the guy tried to pass it off as it was already damaged. But I already had pictures of before and after. And when the guy got the car, the shipping company, the boss or the guy didn't tell him anything about it. And I had told him about it. And the guy was just raging pissed off. I guess at me and the shipping company, which I didn't have anything to do with it. And long story short, that's how it ended. And it really is a sad story that a car that nice, you take care of that well, ended up like that. But that's buying cars. You ask any car dealer, you ask anybody that buys and sells anything, you're going to have people you're going to piss off no matter how hard you try not to. And that's the way that turned out. So that's the story about that. Just so you guys like to know. Hopefully I got this video full of pictures of that car. And it made a good story. So that's it. Thanks for watching.